fairly standard procedure, much more common to other directors. It's sometimes called a shot counter-shot style, so that when you're, it's especially common on American television, but it's common in the movies too, in which when you see characters in conversation, you'll get relatively rapid cutting, and you'll look at one face, then the camera will shift, and you'll look back at the other face, there'll be a cut, and you'll look at it, right? And you'll constantly shift back and forth, this shot counter-shot style. But Renoir uses this kind of style rarely, because it involves, first of all, it involves the idea of cutting. It involves the idea of separation. Why use shot counter-shot, Renoir would say, when I can move my camera like this and show the two characters together, and move it around in another way and show the back of one character's head and the way the other is reacting. In other words, if the camera's part of the action, a fluid part of the action, there's more. I can show you more about character, Renoir would say. But in that particular scene, he doesn't do it. In this first interview, extended interview, it lasts about 2 minutes and 45 seconds, and it uses 21 shots. 21 separate shots in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. For Renoir, that's a tremendous number of edits, right? And one way you can tell that this is why would he do it there? Because it's very unusual for him to use this shot counter-shot style in the film. Why would he do it? He wants to emphasize their separation, their isolation from each other, their distance from each other, right? And there is a later scene in the film, near the very end of the film, again between de Boieldieu and another character, but this one between de Boieldieu and Maréchal, the French working class figure who's on the French side, just before there's an attempted escape. And that scene is almost as long. It's 2 minutes and 20 seconds long, but that scene only has 3 separate ends in it. And you might compare it. The farewell scene is a very obvious one, and you'll recognize it when you see it. And of course, the reason is that he wants to emphasize, insofar as it's possible, that they are together. Right? He wants to minimize the sense of isolation in that sequence. Again, I mention this because I want you to become as attentive as possible, without destroying your enjoyment of the film, to the camera's way of behaving, Renoir's maturity. This is another way of talking about the complexity or the richness of his films. But I simply want to remind you at the end that one way to think about what Renoir is doing is to recognize that his visual style is, in some sense, an embodiment of the ambition not to simplify, right? To be as fluid and as attentive to the world as it's possible to be. And one can see one could say that visual, that commitment to the way the camera acts toward the world is a version of a larger kind of maturity or complexity that's revealed in the content of his work as well.